How cute. He's a cute kid.
My little buddy. Our birthdays are 2 days apart.
Okay.
His birthday
I'm
party.
straddling this chair and I guess it's not gonna work.
You might have been better just to stand up. Whoops. Yep. Cool. Cool. Oh no. No, we don't want to delete the image.
No, delete it.
I didn't do
I
that.
did go take it again. He's got a big old trophy standing in front of him, but I didn't notice that when I took the picture.
Okay. Well, we are on this, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this over. We're waiting on Ava to get here, so I'm not sure. Yeah, she messaged me that she's coming, so we're gonna go ahead and wait on her, and I'm gonna put this on so we can just pretend as if it's not even here, which could get us in trouble if we're not careful. So, okay, here's Susan. There's you one, and here's you one. I got super high color ones too.
Oh boy.
Do you like that? Don't you like that? Yeah, and this one, the one side, it's two sides, and one side actually does have sort of the statue, and then but the other side doesn't. Hello, Miss Ava.
Hello. Sorry.
That's okay.
Running behind.
Running behind, huh? Watch out! Be careful. Okay.
I was first.
I know. Yeah, it was a monumental day. A monumental day. Susan was here first.
Wow. I got to start my crown.
Yep.
Is that how that works?
Something like that. So, okay, that's not going to come for just a little bit. Okay, we got to finish chapter 6 before we get to that. But I wanted to go ahead. I want to go and give it to you, and then when we get there, we'll talk about it a little bit because it's one of those that's one where everybody wants to correlate the first vision out of chapter 2 with what it then, or the vision out of chapter 7 and out of chapter 8, that kind of thing. So that's why you get all these tables. That should have all the information, Susan, that yours had. I think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it has
dates on it.
Yeah, and but the dates are one of those that that's not that big a deal. Okay, so we finished last time with verse 16, and remember this is where we hear that King Darius has been the people that are under Daniel. Daniel has become risen so high in the government that the people under him don't like him. They're jealous of him, and so they create this scenario where they kind of butter up the king and say, "Oh, king, you need to do this decree that everyone that no one can pray to anything else, divine or human, for 30 days except to you. And if anyone does, they should get thrown in the lion's den," which was a kind of punishment that the Persians did use. And so once you sign it, then you can't go back on it. You can't change it. Which I don't understand how, if the king can sign it and make it a rule, why the king couldn't go and then make a rule and change it. I don't understand that. But that's their rules. Anyway, so he did this. He made this decree. Well, then they went and spied on Daniel and discovered Daniel praying to his God, because Daniel's a Hebrew and he was praying to the God to Yahweh or whatever the name would be. Well, he may not even use the name, but he was praying to God. And so he gets, they bring him to Darius, and Darius doesn't want to. He's very distressed, but he decides that he's got to do what he's got to do. So he gives the command, and Daniel is brought and thrown into the den of lions. He's put down, and this is that we talked. It's kind of like it's believed that it would be like an in-ground kind of box that would have a door that they would put food in, and they could move lions in and out of from below. but then above you could look down into it, but a person couldn't get out of it like that. So they didn't have to worry about sealing the top, or maybe the top had a metal grate over it. We don't know. Anyway, but they lowered Daniel into the den, and we ended last time with the king saying, Daniel, may your God, whom you faithfully serve, deliver you. And so, I think that's a pretty good. I mean, he's having to do this to him. He doesn't really want to. He's having to do him to him, and he's basically saying, boy, I really hope that this God that you pray to, I hope he shows up for you, right? Okay, so 17. A stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den. Now this is where it becomes. It's not like a stone is laid over the top. It's at the bottom. A stone is laid in front of the door that perhaps Daniel could figure out how to open up, right, to get out. And so that's where the stone is at the bottom. And the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, so that nothing might be charged concerning Daniel. So not only does the king, they've used melted wax as a seal, and they seal it up, and the king, not only is it the king's signet, but it's also then the other lords will use their signet rings, and they do that so that then if it was just the king's ring, the king could come back later, because they knew the king didn't really want to do this, so the king could come back later and unseal it and get Daniel out, and then seal it back up and use his ring and reseal it. But if they've done it, then they know, and I don't know how they got him to go along with that, but they did. So he's all sealed in. It means, he can't be saved through that door. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No food was brought to him, and sleep fled from him. He's
pretty upset.
He's coming off pretty well. He didn't want to do this. He really hopes that Daniel pulls through. He's emotional. He's fasting. He can't get to sleep. It doesn't say he's praying, but he might, maybe even been praying that Daniel's God would take care of it. That's fasting is one of those things that we don't tend to hear a lot about, but he's fasting. 19. Then at the break of day, the king got up and hurried to the den of lions. When he came near the den where Daniel was, so he's coming up, and this, we don't know if this is inside of a building or if it's just out, in open ground. It appears to be an open ground. He cries out to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you faithfully serve, been able to deliver you from the lions? So now we all understand at that point then, he's yelling this out, hoping he gets a reply. Because if he doesn't get a reply, that's probably not a good sign. It's one of those that it's not like he's actually carrying on a conversation at that point. This is his, oh boy, I really hope you're there. Oh, Daniel, but he's not sure at that point, right? Because he's not close enough to be able to see. Daniel then said to the king, and there would be a pause. You just got to build in a pause, because the king would have to be worried that maybe not, but maybe Daniel's asleep. Daniel's he's down there laying on the haunches of one of the lion, the lion as a pillow kind of thing. And he has to get awakened. And then Daniel says back to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, because it would not hurt me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you, O king. I have done no wrong. I've heard of being, and I didn't realize it was any kind of. Want to make sure that we're on volume. We have sound. Yeah, we've got sound. Okay. It wasn't a bing on that. It must have been a bing on one. Okay. All right. I just thought it's one of those, I don't want to do this, and I do the whole thing, and then there's no sound on it, So now that's an interesting thing. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, because I was found blameless before him. Now, in my Bible, that him is not capitalized, but we would probably in our, because in that he's referring to God, right? My God shut the mouths because I was found blameless before him.
Mine says an innocent before God.
Before God. Okay. So that him is God. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So that's God. And also before you, O king, I have done no wrong. Actually, yeah, he kind of did. I mean, he didn't do what he violated the edict, but the edict was done for a very specific reason, to do him harm. And so, I mean, he did no harm in front of God, and he did not intend harm to the king. He did not intend disrespect to the king, but he's Jewish, and if you're a Jew, you pray to God. That's who you pray to, and they've known that. I mean, this is not, realize that he's been in this situation for a long time. I mean, he is a young man, and he's now quite a bit older, and so he's been there praying to his God the whole time. And so it wasn't a wrong, that kind of wrong. So then the king was exceedingly glad, right? He's excited, commanded that Daniel be taken out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den. So if there's a door or something, they pull him up through the door, or if it's open at top, they just throw down a rope and pull him up. And no kind of harm was found upon him, because he had trusted in his God. And if you back up a little bit, when it says the angel came, sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. When we had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you have the fourth person dancing around in the furnace, and that one we identify a lot with Christ. This one, not. It's just an unnamed angel. We don't really have any. It's not. We don't say that that's Christ that was with him in the lions den, because it's just an unnamed angel. But they pull him up, and he's safe because he trusted in his God. The king gave a command, and those who had accused Daniel were brought and thrown into the den of lions, they, their children, and their wives. Before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces, ate them up. Now, there's some issues there, because there are some people that look at that and they'll say, well, there were 120 satraps that were involved, and there's no way they got 120 satraps and all of their families and threw them down, and these lions killed all. Well, it's not 100. There's not 120, right? When you look at where Daniel is accused, there's just a group of conspirators, and we don't know how many that is. It could have been 4 or 5. Now, this thing with their family is interesting, and supposedly there is historical record that shows that the Persian Empire, that is something they did. That if you were accused and convicted of a crime, the punishment was not just for the person, but for their family as well.
Wow.
Which is, yeah. Well, but that might make you think twice about doing it. If you knew your wife and your kids were going to suffer the same fate as you were, it might make you follow the rules.
Pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, I don't like. We don't like it. I mean, that's a horrible thing. We wouldn't want that, but that's the way it is in this. But the fact that they got these people, and we don't know how much time passes. There would have had to have been some time, because even if the conspirators got there to check and see if Daniel was dead, they wouldn't have had their families there. So they had to get all that arranged, but the fact that the lions weren't hungry and didn't eat Daniel, or as it says, did not overpower him and break all of his bones. I normally think of if they throw you the lions just eat you. You know,
Yeah.
they don't just break your bones. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like they have clubs and they beat you up and break your bones. They eat you. You know, they're hungry. But they didn't eat Daniel. So I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe he didn't smell good. You know, he smelled like he'd eaten a lot of garlic, and they didn't think they'd like him. You know, they were on a strictly no Jewish diet. I don't know exactly, or just the fact that God protected him. You know, that seems to be a better one, right?
Yeah.
Seems to be a better one. Okay, so Darius is relieved. Okay, he's relieved. And he wrote to all peoples and nations of every language throughout the whole world. Now, remember, this is um, sometimes it's referred to the Medo-Persians. There, a lot of scholars will say there is no Medo-Persian; it's just Persian Empire. Um, they're not sure exactly what it is, but the Persian Empire, this would be the main empire at work in the world at that time that would cover most of the known world, so that they would have covered like existing Israel, and they would have covered a lot of, and so there's all of these areas that they've conquered or that they're over, that they do speak different languages, and so he sends out a decree in lots and lots of different languages. Now, he himself, I would assume, does not write all of these things, you know, in every language. I don't. He doesn't do that. He dictates it and it's written. Um, but it's important because it says how important he thought it was. He thought it was important enough that he's going to send it out so that all of these countries, all of these areas they control, all have this information. Because he's wanting to make sure, because think about this: if Daniel is his go-to guy, he's the next in command, and Daniel disobeys the king, and the king has him thrown in the lion's den, and he the lions eat Daniel, let's say. Um, then it's sort of fair game on the Jews wherever they are, because obviously they're bad because their God is not any good, and they're treasonous because they went against the king, and so it becomes open season on Jews. You can just do whatever you want to Jews, but this is going to be one of the things that will protect the Jews. Is what he's going to write. You get the same kind of thing happening in the book Esther, where it sort of becomes, the Jews become fair game, and then ultimately the king, when it doesn't, when and I'm blanking on some of the story, but it winds up being the same thing. People were wanting to harm the Jews, and then the tide turns, and the Jews are the protected people. So, okay, so this is what the king says. All right, may you have abundant prosperity. That's to everybody. That's not talking about the Jews. That's talking about all the people in his realm, right? May you have abundant prosperity. I make a decree that in all my royal dominion, people should tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. So wherever it is that you live, that you're getting this, whatever language you speak, whatever country you're in, right? Here's what I'm telling you: you should tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion has no end. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in the heaven and on earth, for he has saved Daniel from the power of the lions. Okay, so that's a pretty, it's a pretty well worded, here you need to tremble before the God of Daniel. Here's who he is, the living God, endures forever, kingdom that can never be destroyed, dominion has no end. So at that point, God is higher than Darius, right? It's not, it's very clear, because Darius recognizes that his kingdom will come to an end. His dominion will end at some point, but this is a kingdom that will go on forever. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth, for he has saved Daniel from the power of the lion's den. He's a real believer. I mean, at least in the power of this God, in the power of this God.
Well,
So-
he's done a major turnaround, really.
Well, he was never. Now he really.
He never was
He
very.
never. He was not. No, he was always pretty much pro Daniel and pro Daniel's God. He just got tricked. He wasn't. He didn't think before he acted. They sometimes people can, when you're in power, that I mean, even, and I'm not talking about President Trump or whoever is president. You get surrounded by these people that, for the most part, they're yes people. They're yes men. They're gonna build you up and tell you what you want to hear because you're the one that controls whether or not they give a job or not. And so, then you kind of get a big head, and then you have somebody come in that kind of is a little bit clever and all, and can trick you into doing things. And I think that's what happened. And that's why it's important as somebody in power, no matter whether you're in governmental power, I would say if you're the pastor of a really big church, that where, some of these mega churches, these guys are like, they're treated almost like they're, well, not God, but they're treated like they're royalty. You need to have somebody around you that can speak the truth to you, that they're not going to tell you, if you've done something wrong, they're not going to say, oh, that was really smart. That was good. They're going to say, that was a really stupid thing to do. You should have not done that. Or or just ahead of time, this is a bad idea. Stop and think before you do. You need someone like that. He didn't have anybody like that, except maybe that was Daniel. Maybe Daniel was that person that was that for him. And these guys worked around Daniel. So Daniel wasn't there when they did all this. And that's what caused all this to happen. But he's still, he has a very strong affinity to Daniel, and Daniel is very important to him. So then the last verse. So this Daniel, it's interesting. So this Daniel, does yours say that?
So Daniel.
So Daniel. See, mine says this Daniel, as opposed to some other Daniel. I'm not sure what. Just Daniel. Huh?
So Daniel.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know why mine says this. That's a weird thing. So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. And the writers, the commentators that I've looked at say that they do all this Persians and Medes and Persians, but that really, more than likely, it's really all one group. It's not like there was a reign of Medes and then there's a reign of Persians. It's the Medo-Persian Empire, or it may just be the Persian Empire, and that Darius happened to be the leader or somebody ruling that part of the Persian Empire, and he happened to be a Mede, so he's called Darius the Mede, whereas Cyrus is very clearly Persian, and that's the main thing. Okay, so that is, and had eagle's wings. So you get this vision of this creature that is a lion, but at the same time it has the wings of eagles sort of on its back or sides attached to it, right? Then as I watched, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being. And a human mind was given to it. Okay, so you got this creature that's a lion with the wings of an eagle on the sides, back. Something plucks the wings off. I don't know, Colonel Sanders or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is that plucks the wings off. Something plucks the wings off, but it metamorphosizes, whatever that term is, into a human. It stands on 2 legs and changes into a human form. Okay? and it has a human mind, and a human mind was given to it. Now, most scholars will say that if you look at what we've been reading and what that might represent, if you think of Nebuchadnezzar, and you think of Nebuchadnezzar is going to be possessed with this animalistic kind of mental illness where he acts like an animal, and he's out for X number of years, and then his mind comes back to him and he stands back up as a human and his mind's back to being a human. It does kind of sound like, I'm not sure about him having eagle's wings that get plucked off. I'm not sure about him being a lion, but the idea from he was kind of animalistic. He thought he was an animal, or he acted like an animal to the point where he returned to being a human form. And so most people will signify that is Babylon. Okay, that we're kind of given a hint by the fact that it becomes human like that. It's referring to Babylon. Okay, so that's the first one. And on the and actually these basically say the same thing. So on Daniel 2, the head of gold corresponds to the lion with the eagle's wings, which is that here. I'll show the picture so that the TV camera can pick up the picture. I'm not going to hold it for very long, so there we go. Okay, so that's the first beast. Then, verse 5, another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 tusks, and mine has a footnote that says, or ribs.
Oh, it says
Ribs.
Ribs.
Okay. And had 3 ribs in its mouth among its teeth, and was told, arise, devour many bodies. That's a really weird, when you think about, it's a bear, it's raised up on one side, meaning it's off, it's standing, it's like it's standing on its left leg, foreleg, and back leg, and off on the right, or vice versa, because it's not standing on the back and up on the front, because that would be standing more like man. I think that's so. It's raised up for some reason, but then it has this thing with its mouth where it's 3 in either tusks or ribs, and the ribs kind of make more sense when we then hear that it is instructed to arise, devour many bodies. Well, maybe it's already started on some of the bodies. He's been snacking on some ribs, and so he's got ribs sticking out of his mouth. I don't know, but this is a fairly nasty creature. Okay, it's a bear that's going to devour many bodies. And according to our little chart, the bear with the 3 ribs, which corresponds to the chest and arms, is the Medo-Persian, or the Persian Empire. I'm not sure why that is. It's not exactly clear where some of these characterizations come from, but it's. I do have a thing that says the attempts have been made to identify the 3 ribs, but it's best to regard that just as a round number and not to try to seek any idea. How would you decide what those ribs meant? Ribs are ribs. Well, not always. Depends on who cooks them. Okay. So we have this creature. After this, so now we got 2, verse 6. After this, as I watched, another appeared like a leopard, and a leopard could also be, it could be any number of I mean, we know what we mean by leopard. A leopard is also a panther, I think, isn't that? Am I right?
Puma or
Yeah, there's a number of different names that could be very fast normally, very fast.
what's a cheetah?
Yeah, that's the fastest, but that's a different kind of cat, a different kind of cat. Sorry, I mean literally, it is a different kind of cat. The beast, this leopard, had 4 wings of a bird on its back and 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So now the leopard with 4 heads, according to the little chart, corresponds with the belly and thighs of bronze, and those are reference to Greece. Now I'm not sure, I mean, I think the idea of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Those are pretty well accepted kinds of things that they refer to. It's really more when you get into the last part that there's a lot of confusion and a lot of differing things. But this leopard that's really fast within 4 wings of a bird, and notice, interestingly enough, we don't know what kind of bird. Whereas the first creature, it had the wings of eagle, but these are it just says birds. We don't know what kind of bird, and it has 4, which is kind of strange because I don't know of any bird that has 4 wings. I think birds only have 2 wings. So maybe it's like I don't know, it's got an extra set of wings.
Maybe it was a prehistoric one.
I don't know. I don't know. The thing that you could think about is no, because I was thinking like the Ark of the Covenant. It has 4 creatures on the top and the wings, but that's 4 sets of 2, so it's 8. It's not just 4. I'm not sure why we have 4 wings. I'm not sure. But the idea of these things not matching up to anything, they're not supposed to be something we can readily identify. If they were readily identifiable, then we would know what they were really easy. This doesn't make any sense, so we don't know. It's kind of like in the story with Isaiah. Am I right? Isaiah in the temple, when he sees God in the temple, and it's when he says, "My lips are," and they take the coal and put them on his lips. Am I? Is that the right one, Isaiah?
I don't know that one.
I think anyway. There are. I think there were cherubim. I think, and they had 6 wings, 2 that they flew with, and then 1 that went over in different parts of their body. The wings cover. Anyway, so things with multiple wings are not that unusual. There are heavenly creatures that are like that, but this one we don't know, right? But dominion is given to it. So the first one is like a human being with a human mind. The second one is told to arise, devour many bodies, so kill a lot of people. This one, dominion is given to it, and we're not really clear on exactly what that dominion is, except it's control. Because if you back up and think, dominion is a term that had been used by Darius just before this, when he said that all in my royal dominion people should tremble. His king shall never be destroyed, and his dominion has no end. So I mean, that kind of term is language we've heard a lot before, even if it's in a different language than this. So it's like rule, the place, the area. So he's given rule, and the Greeks will rule probably as much, if not maybe more, than the Roman Empire. And they are at the end divided up, and so that may be where the 4 in their 4 the 4 heads may have been, is that there was Alexander the Great, and then when he dies, I think it's divided into a 3-part tetrarchy, so that could be the 4, him plus the 3 that followed him. So that's a possibility. Okay, so that's the third beast. After this, I saw in the visions by night, so in his dream, a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth and was devouring, breaking in pieces, and stamping what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that preceded it, and it had 10 horns.
So
Okay.
my footnote says all of this relates to Revelation 13.
Okay, and that's a possibility. That's a possibility. Some of the stuff I've read said that the beast, this fourth beast, is a two-part kind of thing. That you have the beast that is Rome, that is the all the bad stuff that Rome does, but then that there is another incarnation of Rome, in a sense, that will happen again at the end. So that kind of is what melds them together, is the idea that the 10 horns represent this second coming of the Roman Empire, close to the end of time as we know it. Okay, and so but if you think of what we know about how the Roman Empire existed, terrifying, dreadful, exceedingly strong, iron teeth that devoured, breaking in pieces and stamping what was left with its feet. I mean, that was kind of the way the Romans were. Were not. I mean, they were brutal. The Greeks, the Greeks were much more civilized. I mean, they took over, but there was some respect shown, and all this. The Romans came in and were just brutal. I mean, if you resisted in any way, they would crush you. And you see it when in 70 A.D. when the Jews rebel. I mean, the Romans will come in and ultimately, I mean, they will tear down the temple to where there's not one rock upon another. I mean, it's just completely scattered. They'll sow it with salt, and then they will haul the people of Israel off to forever. I mean, and at that point, once the country of Israel disappears in 70, they will not return again until 1948. Think about it. I mean, that's when the diaspora happens and Jews go all over the world. I mean, these are the Romans were they're pretty vicious. I mean, they don't mess around. But so that this dream does seem to have stuff to do with the countries that that Daniel has been dealing with, or ones that would come soon. But it also has a futuristic version part of it that relates to, as you said, that relates to Revelation. Doesn't this? I mean, don't these visions, don't these creatures sound like Revelation? I mean, they sound like things that we've just seen, and that's where it does come to that. It does come to that. So it is different from all the beasts that preceded it. And one way it may have been different is that it has kind of these two incarnations. It has one that exists in what we think of as the past, I mean, which is the past. But then it also has an incarnation that is in the future, that it's going to return again, this beast. And in this case, the beast it's Rome. Scholars who study this say that they feel that there will be some way that you can link whatever this kingdom, whatever this dynasty that comes up, you'll be able to link it back to Rome, so back to Italy in some way. What it will be, how it will be, we don't know. But there are these 10 horns, right? 10 horns, and these are 10, not 10. You know what I mean? 10. 10 horns, right? Not hey, you 10 horn, get over here. I mean, it could, they sound the same. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and get 8 done. I was considering the horns. So he's in his dream. Daniel is kind of, he's considering the horns when another horn appears. A little one. It's a little horn, right?
Oh, just
A little horn coming up among them. So you got these 10 horns that seem to be, it's not like they're 10 horns over the whole body. It's like they're 10 horns all right there sticking up. And then suddenly this other little one is going to come up, right? And it's got to make room. So to make room for it, 3 of the earlier horns were plucked up by the roots. So they're ripped out in some way, right? They're pushed out. Yeah, so they take off. And then there were eyes, like human eyes, in this horn, and a mouth speaking arrogantly. Okay, so he has such wonderful dreams, doesn't he? Doesn't this make your dreams just seem pretty tame in comparison? I mean, it's like, how in the world, these horns, and even the horn references are very specifically out of Revelation, right? I mean, that there was very clearly beast with horns, and so this is where you get this, that the vision that John receives on Patmos, that is what we have in the book of the Revelation of John, seems to be sort of tied very closely to what is found here in the book of Daniel. And so you get both of them, right? You get both of them. Now,
they weren't contemporaries.
Oh, no. There's no, I mean, realize this is 554 BC. John won't be writing until 80, something like that. I mean, it's like 600 years different. So I mean, it's a long time.
So would John would have had any way of knowing?
Yeah, he would have. He might have. He might have. I don't. I mean, I would say, remember, these are visions that God has given them. These are not vision. These aren't things they're just making up on their own. These are so so the vision came to Daniel, and then it came to Daniel in this way, and part of it comes true because by the time of Jesus, you are in the time when this fourth beast rules on earth. I mean, if that's Rome, which is what the chart will tell us it is, then Rome exists during Jesus. Right, and in fact, it will exist quite a bit after Jesus. So part of it has already happened, but part of it is still to come, and that's what we really get more of in the book of Revelation. But we get human eyes. I've never exactly understood the purpose of the eyes. I mean, obviously to see, but the eyes don't seem to do a lot. It's the mouth that speaks, and that's what we're gonna get, and that has some relation to the other things that are going to come in. But we're going to stop there. So we're going to stop on verse 8, and we'll pick up at verse 9 next time. Okay. All righty then. Okay, so we had a time when the stream wasn't loading, but now we're good. Okay. Well, and if worse comes to worse, you can always watch the recording once it's all done. That's one of those that thank goodness we have that. It's not just watch it live, and if you miss it, you miss it. You can always go back and watch it again. So, all right. So I guess Linda was on here. So Linda, we're going to go bye-bye, and hope you're doing better. Hear that you're doing better. I did get your text message. So she sent me. I got it and hadn't looked at it. So that she was doing better. I mean, it's what she was saying. So anyway, all right. She's pretty tough. Okay. Okay.
She doesn't let too much get her down.
All right. In this, end it.